All right. Hi, everyone. I've decided to go live this morning. I felt inspired to do some 3-card readings. And so here we are. Let me get some Palo Santo in the air. It's a beautiful day where I am. I can hear a frog croaking out in the backyard. I've got myself a cup of tea. It's a vanilla chai. Hi, we've got Pink is 21 here. With a question. What's Henry Liao's intentions towards Nadira Ramadia? All right. So we want to know this guy's intentions toward this woman. It's always a fun one to look at. I'm assuming we're talking about a romantic situation. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Let me shuffle the cards a bit. I see that my shuffling is moving my camera, which is a little annoying. Maybe I'll shuffle off screen. I don't know that makes too much difference. Okay, but these are shuffled pretty good anyways. All right, so we're doing 3-card readings today. So I'm going to pull 3 cards for the question, what are Henry's intentions toward Nadira? Here we go. We've got the Ace of Batons. Ooh, we've got the Magician, sometimes called the Juggler. And we've got 10 batons. Okay, so a couple things I notice right off the bat. Well, first off, the magician stands out. That's no surprise to anyone. Uh, it's an illustrated person card in the center of a string of 3. And so whenever the magician shows up, I think about the function of a magician. What does a magician do? Or a street performer, or like a juggler, or a 3-card Monty guy on the streets of New York, that kind of thing. And they are captivating, they are entertaining, they are interesting, they are fun. They can also be tricky. A magician does tricks, right? And so, what I always say with this card, or often say with this card, is if you know you're watching a show, it's fun. But if there's tricks happening and you don't know it, then you're being manipulated, right? So uh, I always wonder, is someone being tricked when I see this card? Uh, the other thing that stands out is the movement very quickly from one baton to 10, from the least to the most. And so that makes me think this guy's intentions are to move very quickly, right? Uh, the intentions are also not necessarily of an emotional kind. So we clarified at the beginning with the question that we are indeed talking about a romantic situation, an amorous kind of relationship. And so there I would hope to see cups, but we're seeing batons instead here, which makes me think this is someone who is interested in building, potentially building or working on a relationship, but maybe in a more kind of practical way and not necessarily in an emotionally available, open, loving, spiritual kind of connection. If that makes sense. Like this person is more interested in finding the sticks to build the house and not so much in ensuring that um, they're emotionally available and having deep conversations and sharing emotions and feelings and that kind of thing. And so depending on what kind of person Nadira is, that may or may not be on order. That may or may not be something that is wanted, right? So to sum up my thoughts about the cards that we've got here, I would say this is a practical intentions, right? But moving very quickly, and yeah, emotionally unavailable, and potentially not publicly showing all the truth of himself, right? He could be a little bit of a trickster here, as opposed to someone who, like, what you see is what you get. Here, what you see is not what you get necessarily, which isn't necessarily a problem, especially if it's like early in the relationship and you're just getting to know each other. You don't want, I mean, most of us, I think, don't want like everyone to lay all their baggage out on the first date, for example, right? Uh, but make sure that if this is a relationship that is pursued, that at some point, sort of the rabbit comes out of the hat, so to speak, right? And whatever trick is being done is revealed. In other words, if there's anything being hidden or obfuscated, that um, that the two different parties in the relationship are able to see eye to eye about it, so that one of them isn't potentially being manipulated. Why don't I just look at the surprise card to see if that gives us any more information? Well, it does. And so that surprise card is just the card on the bottom of the deck, and it's the 10 of swords. And so that would be uh, potentially a warning to watch out, because I read 10 of swords as sort of at best, it's a sign of something being exhausted. Um, and sort of at worst, it's about pain and failure. And so I can't help but notice the rhyme between 10 batons and 10 swords, right? As though like moving very quickly to potentially try to build a relationship, but resulting in a state of exhaustion, right? Um, so those are my thoughts. Pink is 21. I hope that that gives you some insight into the relationship. Seeing the 10 swords as a surprise card would make me think, figure out the truth of this person sooner rather than later. Like a moment ago, I said, it's okay to sort of wait. If they're being a magician, if they're being a little tricky. But now seeing the Ten of Swords, I would say actually don't wait. Like, get to the bottom of their motivations. Like if you, for example, if you or Nadira, because you asked about Nadira, I don't know if that is you. Um, if Nadira needs someone who's emotionally available and this person is not emotionally available, figure out pretty quick whether that's because they're hiding something or if it's just that they need to feel more comfortable, and then act in accordance with that because there is potential to get hurt, right? With the 10 swords, there is potential that the effort and the pressure of working on and building the relationship could actually get someone hurt. Okay, let me take a peek at my chat here and see where we're going. Let's see. Anush, I think, is next, and Anush wants an overall general reading. So we will do Anush next. And I'm just doing 3-card readings today. So I will say that generally when I'm doing a general reading, I like to do more cards because it gives me more information when I have no context to work with. But we can do a 3-card general reading. And so I think, why don't we just, I don't like to reframe questions, but since there sort of isn't a question, I do work with a question, always with a question. So if it's all right, Anush, then the question I will pose is, what's coming for you in the month ahead, right? So, um, oh, we have a question from Anush, which is, where should I focus more in life? Okay, I can do that. Where should Anush focus more in life? All right, so we'll see what comes up. And hello, everybody. Welcome. If you're just joining, my name is Will, and I'm going to do some free live tarot readings this morning or afternoon, I suppose it is now. If you're interested, please read the description. I'm monitoring the chat myself as I'm doing the readings. And so if you can type in the chat one time politely in all caps, please add me to the list. It will be easier for my eyes to see who has requested a reading. And I'm just about to read for Anush. Okay, and Anush wants to know, where should I focus more in life? Okay, so I'm doing 3-card readings today. So I will sometimes pull additional cards or look at the surprise card if necessary, but I'm starting with 3 cards. So we have the Queen of Spades or Swords down, followed by the 13th Trump, Death, followed by the 9 of Coins. Okay, interesting cards, very interesting cards. We've got a figure here sitting with a sword in hand, looking backward, who turns into a figure looking forward. And the sword transforms into a giant scythe. And what are they cutting? Well, they're chopping away at all of these coins that are piled over here on the right hand side. And so the question is, what should I focus on more in life? Where should I focus more in life? And the answer to the question I would give is you should focus on turning away from thinking about the past to thinking about the future, right? But cut away your focus on money. It's almost like, you ask where should you focus, and the cards are almost giving a sense of like where you shouldn't focus. Because this scythe is chopping away at the money, right? And it's almost giving like a negative answer to your question, like um, if you feel like you've been focusing very much on finances, for example, or money or material things or, pretty gifts or things like that. The nine of coins can often stand for luxury items, right? Like nine coins isn't 10, but nine's a lot, right? Um, so maybe you might, the way I would read this is instead of focusing so much on unnecessary, stop focusing on unnecessary material items, right? Um, let's look at the surprise card to see if we can get a little more information. Interesting. Okay, this makes the picture more clear. It's the Knight of Coins. And so when I think of the Knight of Coins, I think of someone who's like steadily soldiering on and they are actually focused on their coin, right? But they're not focused on what the nine of coins represents, which would be splurging, spending on luxury items, unnecessary things, right? This guy is focused on like saving for a rainy day, that kind of thing. And they're focused on developing their material future, right? Developing um, their sense of stability, material stability in life. And so that is how I would answer your question. What should you focus or where should you focus more? It should be on developing all the nights, I think, in terms of developing or improving yourself in some way so that you have a greater sense of um, material stability in life, as opposed to having unnecessary expenditures, right? Cut those away. That's what this card is saying. And then the other thing I would add is like, I think there's something here potentially between stop looking at the past and think more about the future because the figure turns from looking to the left to looking to the right. So, where should you focus? You should focus on the future as opposed to whatever might have happened in the past. And in addition to that, focus on stability in your life, developing, like doing whatever you need to do to develop a sense of stability, material stability, instead of um, expending energy or value on things that are not as necessary, right? That would be my answer for you. Okay, so let me look at my chat here. Oh, there's lots of folks here. Hi, everybody. Okay. So this was for Anush, I think. And then we've got lots of folks who've, well, let's see, I see 3 folks who've requested to be added to the list. And so I'm going to, um, they've followed my directions that I put in the description of the chat, which is to post in all caps once the words "please add me to the list." And so I am going to prioritize those folks. And so next up would be XO Gene, XO. And so, Gene, if you'd like to post a question in the chat. Uh, yes, and so Gene's question is, may I ask what eyes, feelings, and next actions are towards me? Okay, so I'm assuming that this is a romantic person, like a love relationship, Gene, where I is a person that you have romantic feelings for, potentially. Got it. All right. So we'll do the reading from their perspective, from I's perspective. And I'm just doing 3 card readings today. I might occasionally pull additional cards or look at the surprise card, but I'm not doing any 9 card readings or 7 card lines or anything like that. And if you've just joined, if you take a look at the description for the video, you'll see how to request a reading. I'm probably only going to be on for about an hour total today, but we'll see how it goes. It's afternoon here, and at some point I will need to eat lunch. Okay, so Gene's question, what are eyes, feelings, and next actions towards Gene? First card down we have is the 3 of coins. Followed by the 9 of batons. And then the Emperor. Okay, and so the question we have is from I's perspective, from the romantic interests perspective. And their significator clearly is the Emperor. And so I think we can start there. The Emperor has power, or they at least believe they do. They have the ability to command others, to delegate. They get to say what's what and how things are going to go. And they aren't always interested in sharing that power. That's something to watch out for. So I would say, this person wants to feel that they are in control and they want to feel that they are in charge, which isn't necessarily a problem. It would depend on the other person's temperament and personality, right? But if you are wary of a partner who needs to feel like they are in control, then I would watch out. If you like the idea of being in a relationship with someone who takes control, well, then that might be just fine, right? The other 2 cards shade the meaning of the Emperor, give us more information on how to interpret the Emperor here. Let's start with this one, since the Emperor's sort of, I'm tempted to read this spread from right to left, even though I generally read left to right, and that's because We start with the significator who's looking to the left. So uh, the Nine of Batons. This is someone who's ready to put in a lot of hard work to make a change, make a difference, right? So I would think this emperor is someone who's like, they're not lazy. This is someone who can get down to business, and they're willing to put in what it takes for the relationship to turn into something. The three coins suggest they may not be very talkative. Coins are about what gets exchanged, what is transacted with, and so they may not be. It might be a little tough to have a conversation with this person. They may not uh, be super open to that kind of thing. The other possibility is it's saying that they don't. They're in a position where they're working on improving their financial situation, but at the moment, it's not as stable as it could be. That would be one way of putting it. Let's take a peek at the surprise card. It's the Knight of Swords. All right. And so the way I would read the Knight of Swords in relation to the Emperor is, I said a moment ago, the Emperor can command and delegate, right? And so the Knight of Swords represents the Emperor's actions, right? What they can do. And so what are they doing? Well, they're sending someone off with, metaphorically or actually, sending someone off with a sword. Um, so this would be cause for a little hesitation, or like, um, let's make sure everyone's safe. Because swords are a weapon, and so I always think someone can get cut, and you can also use swords to protect or defend, right? And so it could be a situation where the emperor is ready to protect and defend, but anyone who can protect and defend can also attack. And so um, I don't see in the first two cards that were down any suggestion that that is an open possibility at the moment. But given that we have the Knight of Swords waiting here in the background, it is something that could emerge at some point in future. Okay, so I hope that paints a little tiny picture of this person for Jean, and gives you some insight, Jean, on what might be coming up with this guy represented by the emperor. All right, so the next person who's requested to be added to the list is Feria. If Feria is here, Feria can put a question in the chat. And you're very welcome, Jean. You're very welcome. And if anyone's just joining, my name is Will. I'm doing some free live tarot readings today. Hello, Feria. If you'd like to put your question in the chat, I will do a 3-card reading for you. Okay, finances for the next few months. All right, so why don't we put a 3-month timer on the reading. And we're wondering what Feria's finances will be like in the next approximately 3 months. I'm using the Metanoia Marseille Tarot, and I really love this deck. I do have a little trouble shuffling with it, but it reads very well, and I love the artwork. I have other decks that shuffle much better and that I use frequently, but a lot of them have nudity, which doesn't bother me at all, but I worry about YouTube censoring me or banning me, and so I'm using this deck because it's beautiful and also doesn't have nudity. Okay, here we go for Feria. Finances for the next 3 months. We've got 9 swords. The moon. The page of batons. I'm going to pull another card because the page of batons is looking at something in the future and I need to know what it is. It's the hermit. All right, so now we have a closed string of cards. Okay. So the context of your question, along with the Nine of Swords, Feria, that came up first, makes me think that there's some anxiety around money. I mean, um, maybe dreams about it, nightmares about it, problems with finances. That's obvious. Um, and that maybe things have recently taken a turn for the worse. I struggle sometimes as giving news that I think is not what the seeker wants to hear, what the querent wants to hear. And so, like, just to pull the Band-Aid off, no coins are coming up, right? I'll look at the surprise card in a minute just to see if that changes or colors anything. But so, like, if the implied question is a whole bunch of money going to fall in my lap in the next 3 months, I would say, as things currently stand now, no. Which doesn't mean things can't change. Everything is subject to change, including your financial situation over the next couple of months. And so let's look at the other cards to see if maybe there's a sense of how you can set yourself up to be in the best possible financial position in the next couple of months if the money isn't just going to magically appear, because I don't think we see that. With the moon, I think of some confusion and fear potentially accompanying these financial troubles, right? The dogs are howling, barking, maybe they're even distracted. And again, I think of nightmares, right? The page of batons could be someone who's starting a new enterprise, a new job, a new task, a new opportunity, right? And they're a page or a valet, meaning it's brand new, or they're at the entry level position, kind of like they're an initiate, as opposed to a knight who's developing themselves, or a king or a queen who's achieved a certain level of established recognition. And so this wouldn't surprise me that a page doesn't have a ton of money in their pockets right away. And so, what is the page looking at? They're looking at the hermit. And so, this is where I would give a potential piece of advice. And of course, you should all make your own good decisions using your own sound judgment of everything that you know about your particular context. I just have a little string of words in a chat box and some cards. Uh, but the hermit could be someone who seeks to understand the situation better and so seeks out counsel from someone more knowledgeable from themselves, right? And so it looks to me like the page of batons and the hermit are like meeting up to have a conversation, and the hermit has a light, a lantern, as you know from the title of my channel. The hermit's lantern can light the way, can show the way, right? And if you look, I'm not sure how totally visible it is um, on the camera, but in this particular set, do you see the way that the hermit's light is shining directly on the page's baton, right? Like showing some insight into the work situation and perhaps why it's not producing the financial means that are so ardently sought after. Uh, so I would wonder if there's a possibility here, um, Feria, for you to sort of, I guess, ask for help would be a way to put it, right? Like, um, is there someone out there who you could ask for career advice or financial advice, depending on your individual context? Someone who's like older and wiser. I don't think this is like a boss at work. I wouldn't think of the hermit like that. Um, this is, I mean, I get it, like it's possible. I guess it could be, but I just don't usually think of bosses as the kind of people who give um, give good insights, I guess is what I'm saying. Although I suppose that is not outside the realm of possibility. So let's take a peek at the surprise card at the bottom of the deck. And it's the Pope, which would be the Hierophant in another deck. And it reinforces a current colleague, Feria says, totally could be a colleague. Yeah. The Pope reinforces the idea of you need to seek counsel, you need to seek advice from someone else. Both of these cards would suggest that, right? Like here we have the hermit shining their light back on the page, who I think is your significator representing you. And then here, the surprise card at the bottom of the deck shows a number of people, 3 or 4 people, all coming to this figure for advice, for counsel, for a blessing, perhaps of some kind. And this person is in a position to offer them that. And so I would see you as being one of these people, right? So one way to look at it would be like, is there anyone else in your life that you can think of who other people go to um, for advice, for counsel, and maybe you could go there too, go to that person too. And if it's not necessarily an individual person, which is what the hermit made me think of, the Pope also makes me think of institutions, traditions, guilds, um, groups, right? Like institutions, right? And so, is there um, a council or a board or a trade union or something like that, where it's not necessarily an individual person that you're going to get advice from, but like from an organization about how you can improve or stabilize your financial situation in your current field. Okay. Yes, Faria says, so go out there and seek information. Yes, that's exactly it. There's explore, get assistance from others who might be more knowledgeable than yourself, whether it's an individual or like an organization of some kind. Because the question specifically was about finances in the next 3 months. And And if finances are a problem, which I suspect they are because you wouldn't ask about them otherwise. I mean, I guess maybe you might, but, so, like, cards I would wanna see are any of the coins cards, like 10 of coins would be great because it's the most coins there are, and so if someone's hoping for money to show up, then, um, any coins at all would give us some insight into those showing up. But no coins showing up in a reading about finances, um, sort of says like um, there's not any money that's going to show up unless the current path you're on changes. And so reading the rest of the cards for like how could that path change um, causes me to think that seeking advice from someone who could shed light on the situation or an organization that might be more knowledgeable than yourself would be um, the best way to proceed. And if there's not much on the in your area, I wonder if there could be like an online resource or um, because even if folks aren't physically near you, they could still offer you insight. All right, so I think the next on my list here is Safia Katiba. If Safia is here, you're welcome, Feria. You're very welcome. And I'll just reinforce like um, the cards are not destiny. Every reading is subject to change because everything in life is subject to change. So, like, just because you asked about money and coins don't show up in your reading doesn't mean um, that there aren't ways of getting them to show up in the future. It just means some action or change of direction will be in order. Okay, Safia Katiba, if you have a question you'd like to put in the chat, I will do a 3-card reading for you. Okay, where should I focus more on my life? All right. All right, Safia. Where should Safia focus more on life? Let's see what the cards have to say. Eight cups. One coin. And the Knight of Cups. Okay. Um, so the way I would read this is you should focus on developing valuable relationships with groups of people. That would be my one sentence answer to your question. And now I can unpack it a little bit for you, Safia. So the court card that showed up is the Knight of Cups. And so I would take that as being your significator. Knights are emblems of development. They are improving in one way or another, improving themselves in one way or another. Uh, and, the knight has got their cup raised up in their hand. They're open, they're giving. We associate cups with emotions, with flow, with, water or wine or things that make us feel good, right? And think about what you do with a cup. You toast a cup with another person, right? You toast. You have a sip of your warm tea or wine or beer or whatever it is, and you make agreements and have parties and fun times with others. And so that's what this Knight of Cups is doing. And the um, Ace of Coins means it's something that is immensely valuable, right? Coins are about transacting, conversations, culture, beliefs. But above all, I'd say, what does a coin do? Well, it symbolizes value, right? And so developing valuable relationships with who? Well, we've got eight cups here. And so, like, if there were two cups, I would say you should be looking for a relationship with one other person, right? But when I see eight cups here, I think of eights as groups, communities, right? There's lots of people here. It's not just one person or two people, right? It's like a whole group of people. And it's not necessarily a family. That I would think more of the four, the 3 or the 4 of cups. With 8, it's like it could be with extended family, but, more likely, I think of the 8 of cups as like a group of friends, a group of really close friends. Um, so that would be my answer to you is what should you focus on more in life? Developing valuable relationships with a group of friends, not one friend in particular, not a lover or a relationship, and not even necessarily family, unless you think of your family also as friends, and then that would overlap. Um, but that would be my answer to your question, Safia. I guess we could look at the surprise card. Wouldn't hurt anything. Temperance is the surprise card. Ooh, that's such a beautiful. I've only had this deck for a few weeks. It was just released, and I don't know that I've really taken the time to look at that temperance card. It's beautiful. So temperance mixes and measures and balances. And so maybe the issue is that you, for one reason or another, haven't been able to. or haven't had the time to develop or nourish these relationships with others. And temperance is saying find the balance in your life to make time for them, so that you can um, exchange um, exchange good feelings with one another. Right? I'm thinking about the way that the cups hold liquid, and the two vessels that the angel of temperance hold. It's not like the star card where the figure is pouring the liquid out and giving. Here, it's an exchange, right? It's a synthesis of from one vessel back and forth to the other. So you are giving to them, and just as you give to them, they give back to you. And so it's a synthesis and a balance, almost like whatever you give, you will get back, right? And maybe you'll get it back even more. Um, like the total, the sum of the what is the saying? Um, the whole is more than the sum of its parts, right? Everybody puts in a certain quantity, but then when you look at the combined value of the thing, it's worth more than what everybody put in because everyone's contributed. Um, I'm just checking the chat. Are these current friends? I only have distant friends at the moment for various reasons. Is this people I currently know, or more like go out and meet new people? I would think because this is a good question. Because the knight is facing to the left and the cups representing the other people are to the left, which is the past, it makes me more inclined to think this is like reconnect with old groups of friends as opposed to seeing these in the future on the right, where I might say, go find new people, right? Seeing them on the left, I read left to right. So left is past and right is future. So I would think reconnecting with old friends would be probably the best place to start. Okay, welcome to anyone who might just be joining. My name is Will, and I'm doing some live tarot readings today. You can check the description for how to request a reading. I'm just going to scroll down. I think I have Etty N5D. If Etty N5D is here, I believe you would be next on my list. And Etty is here. Cool. So go ahead and post your questions. Safia, you're very welcome for the advice. I enjoyed reading for you, and I wish you all the best with following the Angel of Temperance's advice to reconnect with old friends. All right. Ete N5D asks, will I be in a relationship soon? And so anytime I'm doing a reading where there's a timing question, I like to build the time frame into the question. And so why don't we say 3 months? Will I be in a relationship in the next 3 months? Okay, here we go. Ooh. We had a jumper, which I don't always read, but it felt right out, so I thought I'll put it on the table. First card up is the Lover, or Lovers, it looks like in this deck. And then the Magician. Wow. Three major arcana, three trump cards come right up here. Let's look at these. Okay, so as I've said before, this deck is based on the Tarot de Marseille as opposed to a Rider-Waite-Smith system. And so the Lovers here is not the card that would immediately make me think that you would be in a relationship, um, like I might if I were reading with an RWS deck. This card is about hesitating, being ambivalent, being uncertain, like maybe there are some people in your life that you are potentially interested in pursuing a relationship with, but for one reason or another, that's not happening. You're hesitating, you're waiting, you're unsure, uh, and you maybe feel like things are out of your control. I say that because Cupid is flying up here and has their bow and arrow out ready to, um, you know, shoot and make people feel things that exceed their own agency. So, uh, that situation leads into a situation of your being on your own and it's interesting because it's almost like the cards are saying if you spend some time showcasing or I don't quite want to say showing off, but like gussying yourself up might be a way to put it. Like not tricking people, not in a bad way, but like, doing little things to make yourself appear different than you already are. Like I don't know, get a haircut, buy a new suit or shirt or whatever it might be. Think about the way that a street performer has to attract others. They have to be charismatic. They have to maybe wear flashy clothes. They have to um, make eye contact. They have to talk, right? All of that stuff. And so it's sort of saying, like, if you're going to go out in public and you're trying to be in a relationship, instead of hesitating about it, you need to like make it clear, like, hey, I'm over here. I've got my table. Do you guys want to do something? Right. Um, if you do that, if you sort of do the magician-y kinds of things, um, then Judgment is showing like um, we see three people rising up, right, in response to this call, and Judgment doesn't immediately make me think that you're in a relationship, but I think it's like there's a pool of potential people to date who would sort of rise up from the dead, so to speak, right? Like rise up to your call and be available to potentially, go out with you, right? Like date. Um, So, to answer your question, will you be in a relationship in the next 3 months or so? Um, I think you could be dating casually. I wouldn't say based on these cards like, "Oh, you're going to meet, like, you're not gonna be married," right? But I would say, like, if you sort of, um, put yourself out on the market, so to speak, and tailor yourself, market yourself in such a way that other people notice you, right? Like if you're loud enough, other people will rise up and answer the call, so to speak, right? Uh, the four of batons that popped out would make me think that you're maybe, oh, wait, this is not batons, these are swords. Um, the four of swords then would make me think um, that perhaps there are some restrictions on on your blossoming, some restrictions on yourself, right? Like I would see you as the six of sorry, the flowers that are trying to grow up here, but they're surrounded by these sharp swords, and so maybe they're having a little trouble, almost like the fence in the garden is getting overgrown because there's not quite enough space for them. And so, if there are maybe little problems that are causing instability or that are not going away, um, this card would sort of provide some context for that. But then I think the solution offered by the Magician card, right, is like spruce yourself up a bit. Um, you know, buy a new outfit, get a haircut, whatever it might be, like show off a little bit. Don't be obnoxious, right? But make sure, you know, behave in such a way that, like, when you walk in the room, a person might think, hey, they did something different, right? Like, hey, they're, you know, there's just something different about them today, right? Like, wow, they're really taking good care of themselves. Or I don't know, maybe they're working out or they're reading this really interesting book and they want to talk about it. Yeah, glow up situation. Exactly. Totally that. Yep, totally that. Okay, let's look at the chat here. Where are we? All right. I think we have Crystal next. Yes. I think Crystal is next. So I've been going for over an hour now in the live stream. So I am probably going to start winding it down. So if I am accurate, I believe I have Crystal on the list and then Aris, such a lover girl. And Noor and Muhammad. And I think those are my three. And so probably those are the ones I'll read and then end for the afternoon. So Crystal is next. Crystal, Ari, and Noor. Okay. So Crystal asks, what are the feelings and actions of I towards me? And I'm just having deja vu because didn't someone else ask like almost exactly the same question earlier, which is fine. I just want to make sure I'm not messing up. Okay, well, let's go with it. No, Ari, you didn't miss. I'm doing Crystal and then Ari, and then I think it was Noor. Okay, and Crystal is clarifying that even though it's like the same question that someone else had earlier today, I'm not like accidentally reading twice for someone or anything. Okay, there's just multiple love interests. Well, I guess, is this a love interest, Crystal? I'm assuming it is, but yes, a love interest. Okay. All right. So we're going to pull 3 cards, and the question is, what are this person I, last name G, what are this person's intentions towards Crystal? And here we go. The world. King of Coins. And the Moon. Very interesting spread. No pip cards. Okay. So let's talk about these. I am assuming gender, and if I'm getting it wrong, let me know and I will adjust my language. But so I see the world here, and there we've got what I think is Crystal's significator, right? We have a beautiful young feminine person, woman, who's surrounded by others, um, elevated, right? She's got the world. She's like floating up in the air. And um, next to her, we have a King of Coins representing, I think, this love interest, I. And he is, importantly, I think, not looking at her, not looking in her direction, right? So, like, I'd have a very different reading if these cards were flipped, right? Like this would be totally different, but that's not what came up. This is what came up. So it's as though there is this beautiful, perfect woman, and behind him, behind his back, and he's not even looking. Instead, he is staring at a coin, which is something he finds valuable. Even though he already has one, notice that in his hand down here, he's holding a coin. So it's like he's got, I mean, money is the first thing, of course, that I think of, but whatever it is he values, he's got some of that, but he's trying to get more of it. He wants more of it. He's got his eye on it, even to the point of it maybe blocking his vision so that he can't Like, it almost makes you think, like, he's so distracted looking at this coin that he's not gonna look behind him and see that there's this beautiful woman, like, floating right there behind him. Uh, and that leads us to the moon situation, uh, which makes me think of distraction, maybe confusion. The it's as though the two people have transformed into dogs or wolves, and they're howling at the moon, but it's not like they're really communicating with one another. Their feelings are maybe coming out, but it's not like they're lovers. Um, so to answer the question of like what are his intentions towards you and his next actions, I think he's very distracted. I by money is the first possibility. It could be work. It's by something that he finds valuable, right? He's got his eye on that thing instead of you showing up as the perfect embodiment of the world card back here behind him, and he's like distracted by this shiny thing that's up in front of his face, and because of that, he's not paying attention to you like perhaps he should. And it's as though like this coin grows over time into a big moon, right? Like that's reflecting light, but that can also be an illusion, right? Like the moon doesn't actually produce any light of its own. The moon reflects the light of the sun. So it's only an illusion that the moon glows, that the moon gives off light. What it's doing is reflecting light from something else. And so that's why the moon is often associated with dreams and fantasies and projections and the unconscious and all of those kinds of things. And so his projecting or focusing on this coin grows and grows and grows, until like y'all are sort of just howling at it, right? Like turning into these dogs or wolves, that are sort of howling at it. Um, what are his intentions towards you? I don't know that he's valuing you in the way that he should. I think he's distracted by something else, which it's not as though his intentions are bad towards you. If I saw perhaps like some swords or the death card on the table, or maybe the tower, I might say, watch out for this guy. He's dangerous. I don't think that's what's going on at all. What I think is happening is he's not valuing you, not seeing the value in you, that is in accordance with who you are, and instead he's distracted, he's confused, right? Let's look at the surprise card, right? And so this would be like the card that sort of synthesizes the other cards, and it's 4 cups, which makes me think of a couple possible things. Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is like he's not recognizing the beautiful thing that's sort of being offered up to him, right? Like I'm thinking of the image on the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the card where there's the figure sitting against the tree and there's a 4th cup offered, but they're like, "No, I have these 3. I don't want another one. Why would I want another one?" Right? So they're distracted again, which reinforces everything else I'd said in the reading. Other things I might think of with the 4 of cups here are like almost emotional boredom or emotional unavailability, right? Like this guy has his 4 corners covered with cups, but but he's not ready to grow, if that makes sense. Like he's achieved a certain level of emotional stability and now he just wants to stay there as opposed to being vulnerable or opening up in ways that might be uncomfortable. He's just sort of like sits with his steady 4 cups. And the last thing is I think of family. Um, Whenever I see the 4 of cups, I think of a family situation. So, like, I don't know if there could be context where that would play into it, but that would be one other thing to consider. Okay, so I hope that gives Crystal, I hope that gives you some insight into him. I don't think there's like, he's not a bad guy, but, he's not appreciating you. He's got his eyes on other things, and he may not be in a position right now to, like, open up emotionally, which oh, you said he's a Taurus, I see, and, like, I'm also a Taurus. And so, like, I would maybe see those things in myself, too sometimes, right? Focus on the material world, focus on money, I gotta save up, I need to make sure things are stable, and then, like, getting a Taurus to open up emotionally is tough too, which doesn't make them it's not like they're trying to hurt anybody, but it's hard for them to open up emotionally, and so, um, you be aware of that. Okay, so Ari, I believe you're next. And Ari asks, "What will my next job be like? Can you tell me, will it be a career or just another job, possibly in retail or another food service job?" Cool question. All right. And Crystal says, "He's a good person. I'm too kind and love that you saw the world for me. I really am very kind and understanding." Yeah. The world is like you've really worked on yourself and achieved something big, right? Anyone who knows about the tarot knows the world is the last card of the major arcana. And so it's like, it's a cycle, right? So, the fool's journey is goes through up through the world card and then it starts over again. So it's not like you're ever done. But it's like there is a sense of having elevated one's self, and he might not see that. He's got his head turned the other way. Yeah. Okay, so I'm shuffling now for Ari. What will my next job be like? That's the question. And the sort of follow-up, is it a career or is it just another job to pay the bills? Maybe in retail or food service. Okay, cool. I like how specific this question is. And you're very welcome, Crystal. I hope it's helpful. Welcome to anyone who might be joining my live stream today. My name is Will, and I've been doing some free live tarot readings. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you want to be able to see more easily when I might be going live. I am starting to wind down my live stream this afternoon, but I'm going to do a few more readings. I believe we have, I'm doing Ari's reading now, and then Noor, I think, was the last. Okay, so Ari asked, what will my next job be like? Here we go. 4 coins. 6 batons. King of Swords, who is looking off outside of the spread. So I'm going to pull another card because I need to know what he's looking at. Two coins. Okay. Let's look at these. Um, well, Ari, I don't know you, but I suspect that you are not being represented by the Knight of Swords, and so I suspect that King of Swords. I suspect the King of Swords is some other person who is involved in your next job situation, like a boss or a supervisor, probably not another coworker because it's a king, right? So, like the king's in charge. If it were a page or a knight, then I might think it's a coworker. But this is someone who's like, yeah, in charge, right? Like a boss. And I always watch out for the folks with the swords because, as I've said a couple times this afternoon, uh, I read cards in terms of their function. And so, what does a sword do? Well, a sword cuts, it stabs. You use a sword to go to war, to fight. You can also use it to protect, to defend. I pair that card with the clear transition from 4 coins to 2. And I think that this guy is cutting the coins down, right? From 4 coins down to 2. Like we had 4, something happens with some batons, which we'll have to get to in a moment. But then this guy makes it so that instead of 4 coins, there are 2 coins left. 4 coins are just enough coins. You've got your corners covered, there's stability, there's balance, and of course, coins. I'm thinking about your pay, obviously, right? Because when we're thinking about a job, of course, we're thinking about um, money, right? Uh, Four's like just enough to cover expenses, right? 2 is like you're juggling to make ends meet. And so I haven't gotten into thinking about what kind of job this is, but the first insight that comes up here is there may be a situation in which um, this King of Swords cuts pay or cuts hours, which is almost the same thing as cutting pay, right? Assuming you're paid hourly, so that you don't have enough to make ends meet anymore, right? Uh, so, like, the first thought that comes to mind, the first piece of advice would be like, when you find this job, maybe don't stop looking for another one. Because like it could be that they hire you as full time, but then you get cut to part time, right? And you need to find another part time job or transition completely out of this job to find, to make ends meet, right? Because that's why we work. That's why we do this. So let's talk about this card because we haven't yet. 6 batons. Here, I would think of collaborating and working with others. Batons are about building things, they're about putting in effort. Um, think about what you use a baton for. It can be to create something, right? Like weaving them together. You can see the way these batons weave together to create almost like a fabric, right? Um, So it would be you'll be working on a team of some kind, right? Which it's not the kind of job where you would be working completely independently. You're working with other people to accomplish the tasks. And is it a career or is it just another job? I don't see anything immediately to indicate that it's um, like a long-term career situation. For that, I would want to see one of the major arcana, one of the trump cards show up, which would mean generally like a big life event, right? And when I see the minor cards, the pips, those are more everyday, ordinary, day to day kind of things. And so I don't think this would be a big major career shift. It's more likely, as you put it, like retail or another food service job. And my caution about it to you would be, um, there might be someone there who's ready to cut hours or cut pay, although depending on where you live, that might be illegal. Um, but you start with 4 coins and things seem stable, but you're ending up with two where you're having to juggle or like get on a windy path and hope that things work out. So watch out for this King of Swords person. And don't, even if things look like they're going to be stable right off, um, don't maybe like don't stop looking for a job, even if you find this next one right away. The one other thing I'll say is the effort you're putting into the job is 6 batons. Okay. So you're putting in an effort of 6, you're getting back an 4, right? So like, it's might feel a little bit like it's not quite worth it. Like you're getting a reward of 4 coins, but you gave 6 batons, and so you feel like, oh, where's my other 2 coins? I should get 6 coins, not 4. And then you are cut down to just 2. And so um, it might feel a little bit like, oh, they should treat me better here. You might at some point end up with that kind of a feeling. And so just to clarify, the question you asked was your next job. What will your next job be like? And so that's what these are describing, um, as opposed to like, a job that you might have 3 months down the line or next year or whenever it might be, right? Okay. Let's look at the surprise card. Oh, Wheel of Fortune. So this job, it's going to feel like you're a monkey at the circus. That would be a way to put it, right? Like you're caught on the wheel and it's going around and around and around, and over and over, like you're caught in a cycle, and it feels like you don't have a lot of control. It feels like nobody has a lot of control. It's like a bunch of, I mean, monkeys or gargoyles or whatever kind of creatures these are, going around in in a in a circus in a spiral, right? So, like, my recommendation would be probably something like take the job, stick with it while you're getting your 4 coins. Be aware that at some point the whole thing might not be worth it and might turn into a circus, might get like, silly shenanigans going on. And so, take the job if you need it for the moment, but like keep looking. It's not likely going to turn into the be all and end all job, or career for you. All right, welcome to anyone who maybe has recently joined. My name is Will, and I've been doing some tarot readings today. I am getting near the end of this live. I've been going for an hour and a half, and it's lunchtime here where I am, and I'm about out of tea. So that's my reading fuel. My last reading for today will be Noor. So let me see if Noor has put their message in the chat. And if you haven't, Noor, go ahead and post your message. And if I wasn't able to read for you today, please consider subscribing to the channel so that you'll be able to see more readily when I am live. Here is Noor's question. I recently got married in April 2025, then divorced in July. We had a fight. We've known each other since 2010. Okay, so you've known each other for 15 years. Married briefly, then divorced. We are in no contact. Will we reconcile? That's the question. Will we reconcile? All right. Thanks for the context. I love reading with a context just because, these cards offer so many possible interpretations, and getting to the most accurate one in my practice requires a question and context. All right, so the question is, will they reconcile? Okay, here we go. Will we reconcile? The devil is the first card on the table. Followed by 8 swords. Followed by 2 swords. Okay. So, my immediate answer to the question is, the question is, will we reconcile? The answer I would say is no, but let me unpack it. The first card up is the devil. These 2 figures, I think, represent yourselves, and so you're, like, chained to one another. Um, which doesn't mean you are on good terms with one another. But, you said that you've known each other for 15 years, you married, you divorced, and so you have this long connection, a history with each other. And so it's not like either of you, even though you're in a no contact situation, it's not like either of you has forgotten about the other. You're still connected, but it's like in a way that is potentially unhealthy, like obsessive, perhaps, or feeling like stuck and you can't, one or the other of you can't get away, or probably both, right? Because both figures are chained. Um, I think of it's a metaphor, right? But the devil figure here is like keeps people in bondage. Um, is about obsessions and being um, stuck. Um, you can't get away. Trapped almost might be a way of thinking of it, right? But there's some good news, which is the transition from 8 to 2 swords. Now they are swords, and so, um, I think of swords in terms of their function, which is to, they hurt, even when they're protecting or defending. And so with the 8, um, swords here, I would think of needing to be on the defensive, like feeling as though you've got to have all of your guard up, right? You need 8 swords around yourself to, like if you're the flower, to protect yourself from whatever might be trying to encroach in on you. But that there is a release of that pressure to some extent. It doesn't totally go away, but look at the way that the flower here in the center of the 8 of swords, when the pressure releases, when some of these swords go away, there's still 2 swords, but that provides all of this extra space for the flower to grow, to blossom, right? And so, is it still surrounded by swords? Yes, but now just 2 instead of 8. So there's a fairly quick release, like a sigh, where there's some room to sort of get a little more comfortable um, in this space after this conflict between the two of you. So the conflict doesn't disappear, right? Because we still got 2 swords here, but it does get better. It's not as bad as it once was, but I wouldn't say that it's a reconciliation, right? It's not as though, um, I mean, I guess I'll look at the surprise card in a moment, but like if I saw the sun card or 2 court cards looking at each other, depending on what they were, I might think of that in terms of reconciliation. 2 of cups, any cups really, might point towards reconciliation. But when I see the devil and swords, I have to say I think it unlikely that there would be something like a reconciliation, although I do see a lessening of pain, a decrease. Let's look at the surprise card and see what it is. It's the Page of Cups. And so the Page of Cups is someone who is starting a new emotional or relationship journey, right? A new one. Um, like for you, I think it would be something like starting over, right? Uh, Having gone through the pain of the divorce and the suffering that comes after it, which will diminish so that you can blossom more and be in a position then to potentially open yourself up um, to new relationships, right? And so that would be my unpacking of the reading. The direct answer of I wouldn't say there's a reconciliation, and then the sort of follow up, like a decrease of trouble, pain, however we want to, whatever the swords are doing, leading to a time where you can sort of get back on the horse again, so to speak, right? And maybe consider opening yourself up to the possibility of a new relationship. So, Nor, that would be my reading for you there. If anyone is just joining, My name is Will, and I've been doing some live free tarot readings today. I am about at the end of today's live stream. If I didn't get to read for you today, and you would like to try to catch me on another day, consider subscribing to the channel so that you can more easily see when I am live. Um, and that's gonna do it today. I'm about out of tea. Let's see, it's been an hour and 40 minutes, and it's almost 2 o'clock here, which is after my lunchtime. So I'm going to end. Thank you to everyone who let me read for them. I appreciate you guys. And I look forward to seeing you in future in another live stream. Bye, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend.